What's up everyone? So in this video, we're going to talk about mindset, and the purpose here is to help you build a mindset that will facilitate learning and performance, and also your satisfaction and well-being when playing. So we'll look at how to cultivate a growth mindset and what you need to know about the learning process, and also what you can expect from the learning process on your journey to improve your poker game. And so let's talk about mindset first. So we finished this bundle here with topics related to your thoughts, your thinking patterns, your mindset. Ironically, this is one of the first thing I try to address with players. Do you have the foundation to which the whole house is built on? So do you have the foundation, the mindset to help with your performance? That's the foundation. So it dictates everything in your life, your performance, your success, achievement, your happiness, your fulfillment, and even the beliefs about yourself. So do you believe in yourself? That's part of what a growth mindset is. Do you believe in your abilities to figure things out, to grow, to adapt, to perform? The good news is, the first thing you need to know is that our mindset is not static. So if you feel like you tend to have more of a fixed mindset, this is something that you can change and improve upon. And for people with a growth mindset already, maybe they need to still work and have some small changes they need to make about their approach. So first thing to understand about mindset is that it can be dependent on the context. So think of it more like a mind state than a mindset. So maybe in this precise moment, I believe I can grow. Maybe tomorrow or in a different context, maybe I don't feel like I can grow, I can get better. So notice when you slip into your fixed mindset and try to deploy strategies to gravitate back to a growth mindset, to work your way back to a growth mindset. And so that's when strategies like self-talk will be helpful to talk your way through this mental block, or changing the narrative around a situation. So using a new perspective for you to see and approach a situation differently. These are all strategies that we'll see in the following videos. So back to growth mindset here. What is growth mindset? Briefly, it's our capacity to grow. It's our capacity to build new skills. It's the belief about ourselves. It's also our ability to be flexible and adapt. So when you think about a fixed mindset, on the other hand, it's the belief that we have what we have, and that this specific situation, we can't change it. Some people are gifted, others are not, and that's why some get to the top and others don't. And it almost sounds like an excuse, right? So people are gifted, that's why they are better than I am, so nothing I can do about this. But growth mindset is your ability to be flexible, to adapt. So I'm a big fan of the word to be agile. It represents this idea that you have this agility, dexterity to manage challenges, to handle challenges, to move forward, to fight, to avoid or dodge the obstacles. All of this going back into this one word, to be agile. And having a growth mindset also means to not resist what is in front of you. So not resist your current situation and try to force something that is not there. It's literally you adapting to the hand that you're dealt, no matter how difficult that can be. So when you get dealt 7 deuce off, right? You're not going to force yourself to play it, or you probably shouldn't. You will make the best possible decision here, probably folding. And if the next hand you get is 7 deuce off again, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fold again. So you're gonna adapt your strategy based on the situation you're facing, based on the cards that you're dealt. And so if we think about a fixed mindset and what it sounds like, I can't get good at poker, I'm not good at poker. So saying you're bad at poker or saying you're good at poker is only a statement about your current skill level in this moment right now. So saying I can't get good at poker implies a fixed state, a fixed mindset. You're talking about your capacity to grow here. I can't get good, or I'm not good at poker. It's fixed. And sometimes The reality is that you actually suck at something. That's fair enough. So in those situations, if I were to tell you to use positive thinking, like I'm good at this or I can do it, it makes little to no sense, right? Like, you know deep down inside of you that you suck at a specific skill, and that's okay. That's the reality right now. So using some cheesy one-liner to boost you up probably won't cut it for you. And so I won't tell you to think positively in those situations. However, I'd like you to start implementing something new in your narrative. So when you feel like you suck at something, when you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like you don't improve, I'd like you to add one word in your vocabulary. And that word is yet. So I'm not good at this yet. I can't do this yet. So what do you think the purpose is for adding this word at the end of a statement? What does it imply? Basically, what that does is it creates the belief or the possibility that you can get better. You can get better at this thing. If you put time and effort in, you can get better at this thing. So it's going back to this belief in our capacity to grow and learn new skill. It's the belief in our ability to be flexible and adapt. So I'm not good at this yet means I can get better at it with some time, with some effort. So you see how by just adding this one word, we're removing the fixed mindset and we're creating hope for change, hope for improvement in your game. And with this idea of mindset and how we can believe that we can do things or not, I want to share I think that's quite an inspiring story around the power of mindset and the belief in our capacity to succeed. So this story is about George Dantzig, who was doing his PhD in mathematics at UC Berkeley. I think it was something like 1939 when that happened. And during his first year of PhD, he arrived late to one of his stats class. And on the blackboard, there were basically two problems written down. So he assumed this has been the assignment, has an homework. So he wrote them down in his notes. And a couple of days later, he handed in his homework to his prof. And at the same time apologizing for the delay because he had found that these problems were a little bit harder than what usually you see as a first year PhD assignment. And without realizing it, what Dantzig did at that moment is these two problems, the two problems that he solved, were in fact two famous unsolved problems in statistics. So basically he had solved what seems to be unsolvable math problems. So think about this for a second. What do you take away from this story? Had he known that these were seemingly unsolvable problems, do you think he would have tried to solve them? Do you think he would have persevered enough to solve them? I'm not quite sure. I guess on my end, my guess would be probably not, right? If you think something is not possible to solve, what are the odds that you're going to put a lot of effort and time in this endeavor? So the lesson I take from this is that we tend to place limits on what we can be, on what we can achieve, simply based on what we think or believe to be true about our capacity. So if we believe we're not capable of something, chances are we won't put in the effort. But if we think it's possible to achieve something, we'll probably put more effort and perseverance into that thing. So here, that's what we're doing with our mindset. We change our narrative from I'm not good at this to I'm not good at this yet. So that you can actually have a belief that you can improve. It doesn't mean that you're good at it now, but it means that you can get good at this later. And if you truly feel like you're stuck and that there doesn't seem to be a solution or hope for you, I would highly recommend getting coaching. So when you think about poker, for example, if you feel like your technical skills of the game are stuck, a coach can help you see the possibilities that you might not see for yourself. A coach can help you find that growth mindset again. They can help you figure out the leaks or the things that you can get better at if you feel like you're stuck and there's no hope for you. And maybe for a moment you're stuck in your fixed mindset. So a coach can help you move from a fixed mindset and tell you, I see this, and that as possibilities for you to grow and improve your game. So that's why having a coach can be sometimes useful, if not always. All right, so let's look at how we can cultivate and nurture a growth mindset. Here I have 4 principles for you that would be useful to think about. First one is mistakes are part of what helps you learn and grow. So the nature or magnitude of mistakes might change. So they might become smaller, bigger, different, but they will always be present. Mistakes will always be present, especially in a game like poker. So it all comes down to accepting that mistakes are inevitable. That's the first step, and to try to learn as much as we can from them. So really changing our perspective around what it means to make a mistake. Is it something bad, or is it something that can be useful? That's one way to cultivate, nurture a growth mindset. Changing your perspective around mistakes. Second one, if it's easy, you probably are not challenging yourself enough at this skill or at this task. So try to create a bit of discomfort, expanding the limits of your abilities. And the famous expression, getting out of your comfort zone, I'd rather say expand your comfort by spending time at your limits. So expand your comfort zone by spending some time at your limits, getting more comfortable there. Finally, pay attention to your inner dialogue. What kind of limiting beliefs do you have? What kind of narrative you tell yourself? We'll look at self-talk in future videos, but for now, think about the word yet, right? That's something we've just discussed, and all the possibilities it implies for you. Think about this word yet and what it implies in terms of possibilities, hope for you to get better at something. And actually, last one, use the mindset approach of the learner. Or, if you've watched Star Wars, think about approach life or approach poker as the Padawan, right? Always be learning. So what can I learn from this situation? We'll also look at this in the next video on perspective. All right, so we've talked about mindset, growth mindset. How does that relate to learning? And so learning, I feel like if you had to simplify learning, there are 2 phases to learning. First one is figure out how to do a thing or figure out a better way to do something. So that's awareness. That's awareness of something new, of something different to try out. And then step number 2, you do that thing. So you practice that thing until you become better at it. So it comes back as basically a cycle of you figure out something new, you practice. While you learn, so you learn and discover something new, you practice it, and as you practice it, you notice something new again, you implement it and practice it again. So it's a never-ending cycle. And there's a huge difference between step 1, which is knowledge, and step 2 about skills. And so what's the difference between knowledge and skills? Well, knowledge is just something that you know, right? A lot of the things that I'm talking about here. But skills require taking action. And so that's why I try to put as many exercises as possible for you to implement the knowledge that you get from this bundle. So that's why there's a workbook. So most of the exercises are 2 to 4 steps, right? So my hopes are for you to implement and integrate some of these processes when you're playing. So they become your playbook when facing a difficult emotion, when facing an obstacle, when you feel unmotivated. So all these situations, you now have some principles, some processes, some playbook that you can actually use when you're playing. All right, so back to learning here. So we can't talk about learning without discussing neuroplasticity. So what does this word actually mean? And if you break it down, neuro, it's basically everything related to the brain or neurons, and plasticity is this idea of adaptability, the adaptability of an organism to changes in its environment. So this ability of the nervous system to change its activity, its brain response, in response to stimuli in the environment. So we're changing some of the connections to allow the brain some ability to adapt. So so if I had to basically say one sentence to kind of simplify this, neuroplasticity, the ability for our brain to adapt, change based on the demands of our environment or the task at hand. So the more we repeat something based on the demands of our environment, the more our brain will change and adapt according to this. So it's this idea here of neurons that fire together, wire together. So as you repeat something more and more, there are some brain connections that are happening in your brain. Now let's look at some of the rules around learning. So first one I have for you is that learning, the act or the practice of learning something is also a skill. So you have the skills that you're learning, but learning is also a skill. And if it's a skill, then that means that you can get better at it. So that means that you can get better at your approach to learning. The more we do it, the better we get at it, given that we train wisely, right? So if it's too easy, for example, you're probably not challenging yourself enough. Maybe you want to augment the challenge. And there's a common saying in neuroscience that basically I just saw earlier, neurons that fire together, wire together. So as you practice a skill, your brain strengthens the neural pathway required to perform a specific skill. So think about a path in the forest or in the snow. Think about a path that was never crossed or used before. So the first time you go through it, it can be very difficult, right? A lot of unexpected obstacles. Each step is a challenge. But as you cross this path more and more, you get more used to it. The ground is hardened by the many steps that you've taken on that path, and you probably have removed some of the obstacles, making the journey much easier for you. So this is what it looks like for neural pathways in your brain. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. It becomes automatic, requires less attention and effort. So that becomes, like Jared Taylor would call, an unconscious competence, something that becomes very easy and effortless to do. Rule number 2, struggle, discomfort, and mistakes are part of the learning process. So let's take a concrete example. When you go to the gym, you expect resistance, right? You go to the gym to lift weights, which are subject to this thing that we call gravity, right? So lifting weights requires you to go against gravity, to go against the resistance. The weights want to go down and you try to push them up. So you expect it to be difficult, challenging, and even uncomfortable. And that's probably why you're in the gym in the first place, right? But why don't we expect the same resistance when learning a new skill related to our mind? Maybe it's because we don't trust the process as much, or we don't give ourselves enough time before we see results. Because when you go to the gym, it doesn't take long to start seeing some results, and the process is quite clear. You lift weights, the next day you feel sore, and then you get stronger. The mind is a bit different. It's not always clear if we're making progress. So give yourself time and appreciate the struggle and discomfort that comes with learning and trying something new or different. So appreciate the struggle and discomfort that comes from learning and trying something new, just like you appreciate the discomfort, the struggle of lifting weights. Third rule here, it becomes worse before it gets better. It's not always true, but I'd rather have you start with this expectation and be pleasantly surprised rather than expecting it to be easy and you expecting that it always gets better. Because let's say you're performing at something at a 6 out of 10, but that 6 is capped in potential. This is your plateau. plateau, or this is your ceiling actually, sorry, would you accept to downgrade to a 3 for a moment, basically learning something new, to help you actually reach bigger potential of 8 or 9 out of 10? So would you accept to downgrade your results just for a short moment or a short period until you practice and learn this new skill that will help you actually get bigger potential of 8 or 9? So accepting that it becomes worse before it gets better. Sometimes we quit too soon because we feel like our game worsened. So give it more time. And final rule here, it takes a really long time to master a skill. It takes time to develop a new skill. It requires efforts and quality repetitions. I actually have a question for you based on that last rule. When you think about your strengths and the skills that you have acquired, how did you become so good at those things? Sometimes we lack the ability to deeply reflect on how we got there. So let me give you an example. I see myself as someone who's always been good at math and good at problem solving. Part of it is because I'm naturally drawn to those things. But what does that imply? It basically means that I've spent a lot of time, effort, and attention on things related to maths and problem solving. So consciously and unconsciously, I've been training my problem solving skills for a very long time. So that's why I'm really good at this. Time, effort, and attention. It's not because you're naturally curious about something that you become necessarily good at it. It's not because you're naturally curious about something that you become necessarily good at it. Oh, this is what I always loved and enjoyed. It's because that curiosity that you have for something allowed you to spend a lot of time, effort, and attention thinking and practicing these concepts. Does that make sense? So the curiosity is just a variable that gave you the will, the power to spend time, energy, and effort learning and practicing these skills that you have, all of the strengths and skills that you've acquired over time. It's not because you were naturally drawn to them that you were good at them. It's that because you were naturally drawn or interested or curious about certain things, you spent a lot of time, energy, effort on these things. That's what made you good at them. And let me give you just one last example around this. So think about Tiger Woods. He had a golf club in his hand at the age of 2 or something, and he started getting coaching by professionals around the age of 5. So are you really surprised that he got to this point in his golf career, that he basically got to the top? Is it surprising given the amount of time and effort he put into golf? Not really, right? So some of whenever you feel like you're gifted at something and you suck at something else, think about the amount of time, effort, and attention that you put in these two things. Think about the amount of time, effort, and attention you put on the things that you're good at, and compare it to the amount of time, effort, and attention that you put in other things. Chances are you've put a lot more time in the things that you're good at than the things that you suck at. So that's why I made this first video. I really wanted you to change your perspective, your mindset around learning, practicing skills, and what that requires or what it implies. So that's it for this video, everyone. Thanks for listening and take care.